これならはっはっやってやこれならはっはっやってや
Okay, welcome back to the tutorial. As you can see, this tutorial we will do the normal attack, the attacking parts. Last time we only did the special effects part. So for this template, I already have the light attack done. The light attack already can have effects. So we will, using the template to finish attack 205 and then 210, which is the heavy attack. So currently for 205 and then 210, which is medium and heavy attack, doesn't have any sound effect. And sound effect have, of course, sound effect, which is the whoosh sound. Another one is Saber's voice. So for the whoosh sound, I use channel 1. For voice, still using channel 0. And then you can see for light attack, which is 200, there is a trigger or on the voice part. The trigger or is a random smaller than 300. So this random number is a 0 to 999 number. So basically it has some possibility that Saber will not make any voice. But for a medium attack and heavy attack, I will remove this randomness and make all the attack have voice. Let's check the animation for 205. So the active attacking frame is number 4. So my experience is using the previous frame for voice and the whoosh sound. So it will be enemy element 3. And I will use a 110 and 111. I will ignore 112. So basically I will use 200 and 201 for the weak, the next two as the medium, and then the last two as the hard attack. Okay, let's change the number so we can know where are we editing. So and then change the element number. Okay, done.
Fight.
And next part is the hit part, which is called hit definition. And this hit definition have many parameters. I will explain one by one. You can copy the hit definition from state 200, and you can paste it in into 205. So the first thing we need to change is to change which frame or element is going to trigger this hit definition. So we know the number 3 is, or not number 3, is number 4 is the first active frame. So we say element 4. Actually this is same as element time 4 equals 0. So here is a element 4. So for the next attribute is this S means stance and NA means normal attack, and damage is obviously damage, and the next one is the blocking damage. For enemy type, currently is light, but we are making a medium attack, so we expect our victim is perform a medium damage animation. So for ground type and air type, here have high, low, trip, etc. So here we can use high, and high means the head of the victim will bend back. If you say low, that means the waist is going to move back, but the head remains. And guard flag and hit flag define when it can be hit, when it can be guarded. So M means high and low, and A means in the air, and F means falling. Actually, there's another one is laying down, which is D, means laying down. So for the priority means higher priority attack can beat lower priority attack. For pause time and guard pause time, usually for a light attack is usually is 8 or 10 or something like that. Means I will pause for 8 tick, and the enemy also will pause for 8 tick. And the guard pause time is the same, but for when the move is guarded, so both attacker and the receiver pause 8 ticks. So for the ground hit time, air hit time, and the ground slide time, I suggest you make them the same. So basically, after the hit pause for 8 tick or 10 ticks, the character is going to sliding backwards. So how many times the character or the victim will sliding back is defined here. So the next one is velocities. So those velocity define after this move is hit, how much speed you want the victim to apply to itself. This ground corner push off is if the victim is at the corner, by right, the attacker will be pushed away from the receiver. So here is the hit sound. Don't forget to add a S in the front of the value. It will, without S, it will use the system sound, which is provided by the MUGEN engine. We are not using the character sound. The hit spark one is quite tricky for modern character. So for modern character, the hit spark is made by many layers, and those layers can stretch, can spin, and very complicated. So I made a helper for each hit sparker. So the helper will do the complicated things. Here is we assign those number to a var, and actually the hit sparker value is -1. The next part is the shake one. So when we land a hit, the screen will shake. So here is how long it will shake, and the amplitude it will shake, and how fast it will shake. And for the fall, on the ground, the victim will not fall down, but if the victim receiving this attack in air, the victim will fall down. But I also say the fall can be recovered. For example, the victim press a button, and after a time, the victim can recover in air. And lastly, I suggest you assign a ID to this attack, so we can trace the victim's movements. And this ID will be the state number. And I will do a slow motion for you to see clearly for the hit spots. And let's move down the hit spark a little bit.
Fight.
Yeah.
Okay, done. So let's cover the hit spark system a little bit. Actually, this hit spark system, when we land a hit, it will not display any hit spark, but create a helper, and this helper will generate this hit spark, so we can do twisting, spinning, scaling inside this helper. And for example, this helper will trigger when we land a hit, basically, and we will have to give the variable a value, so the helper will know which helper or which state is going to be generated. Actually, the whole system is copying from J. Moffman's Khan. Okay, I find it's very useful, and I use this system to replace the original system. So let's look in detail for hit spark number. So originally here should be the number of the animation for the hit spark, but here is the hit spark is so complicated. It's made by layer and layers, so we need to summon a helper. In order to summon this helper, the helper needs some variables. Here is var 53. So you see this and here the colon equal means I want to set this number to variable 55. It's not meaning I'm going to check whether this 55 is this number or not. It means to set. So so the return will be a positive value, but we are using 0 to multiply this value, so it will always be 0, and the -1 plus 0 is always -1. So the system hit spark will have a -1, which is nothing, will be displayed, and this is what we want. But if we want use the system to display this spark, we can using it in this way. So basically we just give a value, and the XY coordinate we are also giving a value. So let's see what does it look like. And you see nothing happens. There must be something wrong. Let's check. I think the spark number need to add a S to mean is self, means to use myself's animation number, or else it will use the MUGEN system's animation number.
Fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you see it looks like this. It can only display very simple animation. And let's talk about the var 55. So the var 55 looks quite complicated. So here's why I use this kind of expression. So if we just give a very simple number, so it will hardly either here or here, but the distance between me and the opponent is dynamic. So it's very unlikely the hit spark will be on the victim. Okay, so we need a dynamic way to decide where the hit spark on x-axis will be displayed. So my method is take the P2 distance, which is my center to enemy center, the distance, plus my center to enemy's front. So and multiply by 2. and this will average out the distance between me and the victim, so it will be just right. And let's revert back to our helper type hit spark.
Fight.
Yeah.
Okay, next part will be the heavy attack, and this part will be easier since we already walked through the medium attack. The components are all the same, so we can copy the sound first and paste into the heavy attack, which is 201, 210. Okay. Then we can change the animation, and we should check which anime element we will trigger the sound. So the active frame is number 5, so the previous frame is number 4. So we will trigger the frame at trigger the sound at the number 4, fourth frame. And for the whoosh sound, I will use number 11. Let's listen to number 11. And for the voice, we will use the next two, which is 2104. Let's listen to 2104.
Yeah. Ha.
食ログではこの辺りに。
はあ。であ。はあ。はあ。はあ。であ。であ。はあ。であ。
And another thing I found that the heart attack have this dash dust. And for this dash or running dust, it's quite easy. I already have it's in state number 100, and there's a helper for that. So I can just copy and paste this helper and into our heavy attack. And after copying, we change the number to 10. And since the dash dust is bigger than the heavy attack dust, so we just need to change the trigger, which is I set the trigger into active frame, and the else is that we need to change the size. So we say the size X scale and the size Y scale will be maybe half of the original one.
Fight.
So let's change nothing and see what happens.
これならこれなら。
You see, this is the dash dust,
であ。はあ。
and this is the same size one.
はあ。
And we can put back this dust a little bit and shrink its size. So we will multiply this value by 0.5, which is half of the size. Since inside the helper, everything which is size, velocity, I always multiply by this X scale and Y scale, so
これなら
it
これ
will
なら。
have no problem. So let's try.
はあ。
So it's much smaller. Maybe I can multiply by 0.6, which is 60%.
はあ。
And here is for hit definition. We can copy from previous move and change the active animation trigger and change all the parameters accordingly. Maybe the pause time, I can give it a bigger number, maybe 12. and the sliding time may be also a bit longer. I will change this VAR to the heavy attack hit sparker. And maybe we should adjust the Y value for the hit sparker. And the hit shake time I always set it to the same as the pulse time. And the amplitude is a little bit bigger, and the frequency will be lower. For my experience, higher frequency feel like the attack is lighter, and the lower frequency feel like the attack is heavier. And let's give a recovery time also a big value. So let's refresh and try.
Fight.
Okay, all the normal attack is done, but the one thing I want to bring up is how those attack actually works. So there's two kind of attacks in Mugen. One is normal, one is custom. So actually both are acting. There's no actually attacking or something like that. All is acting. For normal one is the attacker will define a bunch of parameters in his or her hit definition, which we just did. So like how long you should pause, how many HP you should take away, and how far you should be pushed away, something like that. And when the attack is landed on the victim actually goes to a specific predefined state, which is state 5000. So inside this 5000, the victim actually is not going to be hurt. The victim is actually receiving a script with parameters. So basically Mugen will pass the parameter to the victim, says, okay, these are the parameters the attacker wants you to do. For example, the receiver or the victim will see, oh, this is how many HP I should deduct from my HP, and this is how far I should be pushed. This is how should I act? I should act as a light, receiving a light attack or receiving a heavy attack. This is all script. So once the victim got these scripts or parameters, the victim will act accordingly, according to his or her own program. And you see, it's all acting. So you may have this question whether the receiver or the victim can refuse to act being hit. And the answer is, of course, yes. And here we will create a customized 5000 states, and this customized one will override the system default one. For example, we say this new one will be standing, and the move type instead of getting hits is H. Now I say it's a attacking state, and the only thing I want to do inside is change to a attacking state. Okay, I will say change state, or I will say self state. And the difference between change state and self state is self state forced to go to self state, of course, but change state may possible go to the another player's state. So after the change, instead of we will play victim when we got hit, but we will not play victim but doing an attack move.
食ログではこの辺りに
Or we can just go back to state 0 and pretend nothing happened. And basically this is the effect when another side refuses to play as a victim. So the next one is how we can do combos. For example, the type Lumina character can do combo whatever they want. When they land a hit, they keying another move. It will immediately cancel the current move and do the next move. So here we will add a combo to our moves. So currently only when we have control then we can attack, but we can add another one, which is I add a trigger 2, and we will say when we are doing attack moves, and my attack moves is from maybe 200 to 499. And we can add another condition is like trigger 2. Okay, let me finish the first line. And trigger 2, when the attack move is landed or touched the another side, the trigger is move contact. Move contact will trigger whenever the move is guarded or hit. And after this, we can see we are allowed to do another attack move. But we will also say except the current move is not my current move. Basically, when I doing a light medium attack, I cannot do medium attack again. When I doing heavy attack, I cannot do the heavy attack again. It have to be something else. So for each move, I will say no, not to the current move. But for a light attack, it will not have this limitation. The light attack will able to cancel itself.
これなら
食ログではこの辺りに
Round 1. Fight.
これならこれならこれならこれならこれこれなでこれならこれなら
Okay, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel.
これなら